Design.
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 Design means to plan.
Human.
Substance.
Technology.
Designing for a better future.
What is design really?
Let's talk about design.
Making an impact in the world.
The power of design to improve life.
Design to survive.
The world has a fickle relationship with the media. They're either labelled as parasites with the goal to manipulate and advance their own agendas, or heroes risking it all to expose shocking truths and bring about meaningful change. But one thing is certain: freedom of the press is the cornerstone of democracy. According to the World Press Freedom Index, journalism is completely or partially blocked in 73% of the 180 countries ranked by the organisation. For offering an alternative point of view to those in power, or simply reporting the facts, some journalists risk being fined, jailed, exiled, and even killed. UNESCO reports that a journalist has lost their life an average of every 4 days within the past decade.
This is the last time Saudi journalist and Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi was seen alive, entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul last week. What happened next is a mystery. Khashoggi, a vocal critic of Saudi Arabia's crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, told the BBC 3 days before he went missing he knew he'd made powerful enemies.
When media is either blocked or controlled, from reputable independent publishers to bloggers on social media, societies can suffer just as much. Many are forced to go without the most fundamental information, be it about a political candidate, a threat to public health, or even about climate change.
I'm not going to lose that wealth. I'm not going to lose it on dreams, on windmills, which frankly aren't working too well. I'm not going to lose it.
The pandemic has brought this problem further into the spotlight. Not only has coronavirus been used as grounds to block journalists from reporting in the field, but has exposed just how dangerous it can be when people are silenced or news is manipulated to downplay danger.
At worst case scenario, it could be the flu.
I feel like the more I learn about this, the less there is to worry about.
I was about to say the same thing.
While legislation can protect journalists and freedom of the press, immediate solutions are desperately needed. Technologies like Tor or Signal provide anonymity and increased safety, but it's not just about getting the news out, but ensuring it reaches the masses. As the media landscape becomes more convoluted and global surveillance explodes, is censorship and manipulation bound to increase? Or can we find clever loopholes to not only get information into the hands of those who need it most, but nurture a new generation that values truth and transparency? Welcome to Can Design Save Us, a series exploring design as a pioneering force for good. We dive into the most pressing problems of our time and meet people using design to solve them. We explore the good, bad, complex, and controversial. My name is Leslie Price, host from the Index Project. And my guests today are art director Serena Martinelli, also known as Nina, and senior copywriter and project manager Tobias Natterer, behind the Uncensored Library. The Uncensored Library tackles censorship and governmental disinformation campaigns through gaming. It uses Minecraft, the world's most popular computer game, as a publishing loophole to get important stories into the hands of those living in countries with limited press freedom. Hi guys, and thank you so much for joining us.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, really, thank you.
So to get started, I would love to sort of hear, as you guys would explain it, the Uncensored Library, it's a digital home for press freedom, but how would you sort of explain it in your own words? Perhaps trying to consider some of our less tech-savvy listeners.
Actually, when we started this project, we were also less tech savvy. None of us had ever played Minecraft before. So yeah, in a nutshell, we found out that Minecraft is accessible in every country in the world, and even accessible in countries with censorship. So we thought that is interesting. And when we got a bit deeper into the topic, we found out that Minecraft also has books within the game as an item. And you as a player can write books freely. You can write in there whatever you want and share them with other players. So we thought, okay, that's really interesting. And yes, we then partnered up with censored journalists who got their work blocked or censored in their countries. And we had their work republished within Minecraft books. And then we built a giant library within the game and put all of these censored articles into this library and thus uncensoring them. And basically, yes, we bypassed press censorship with a computer game.
So, I mean, it works just like any other computer game, right? That you're a gamer, you've got an avatar, and that you can sort of go into this universe, as we speak, and then access these sort of censored stories. I mean, what countries would you say most heavily? Who are you guys trying to target with this project?
So basically, we did we took some Google data. And when we were looking at Google data, we saw, okay, there's some countries that have very high Minecraft interest, and some of these countries also have censorship. So we took the Reporters Without Borders Press Freedom Index, and they've really ranked all the countries by their press freedom situation. And then we put these data and put them over and on top of each other, and kind of saw what countries have a very bad press freedom situation, but also a very high Minecraft interest. And then we narrowed down on the countries that we wanted to target. And in the end, it was Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Vietnam. And lately, we have added Brazil and Belarus as well.
Okay, brilliant. But so Toby, you've been with the project since the ground up, from my understanding. But Nina
as well, actually.
Both of you. Apologies, but Nina, you've worked on some really interesting projects before with a focus on social good. But how did that sort of transition go from those projects to the Uncensored Library?
Yeah, right. So, I've been at DDB for the last 3 years. And of course, I work on a variety of clients. But I did get the chance to work on some sort of special campaigns that are based on a social topic. And one example of this was one that we did called Equal Pockets. And essentially, it was based on a combination of two different insights. So one, that the gender pay gap is still a problem that many women deal with in the workforce. And incidentally, that women's pants are also designed with small or sometimes even non-existent pockets. It's absolutely infuriating. And so basically,
fake pockets, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically, we reached out to this fair fashion brand called Kings of Indigo and presented this idea, and it was very successful. And ultimately, the premise was that we produced women's jeans that had pockets that were equally as deep as men's, to make a statement about equal pay. And so that was obviously like a really exciting project to work on, and it especially got me excited about working on campaigns that tackle social issues in some way. So of course, when Toby and his partner Sandra Hiley, he was our senior art director, and Patrick Leonard, the creative director, reached out and said, hey, do you want to jump on board this project? Of course, I was very excited to do that.
But you guys are basically, the project is run in partnership, would you say, with Reporters Without Borders, and you guys work with Blockworks as well. I mean, how did the initial idea come about? I know we sort of talked about this, that it was essentially your idea, right?
So we have been working with Reporters Without Borders for a while. So Nina has mentioned Patrick Leonard, our creative director, and he has been doing the Uncensored playlist in 2018, basically where censored articles became songs within Spotify, because Spotify is available in censored countries as well. So that worked really well. And then in 2019, my art partner Sandra Hiley and I jumped on board. And Patrick said, hey, guys, it would be really nice if we could continue this uncensored story. And what do you think? Maybe we could, do a follow-up. So we were excited that, yes, let's tackle it. And we asked Reporters Without Borders what their problems are, or what are some of their biggest problems. And they said, actually, it's really hard for us to reach young people because press freedom is a very political and complicated topic. And it's hard for us to reach this young generation. So we thought, okay, that's interesting. Why not try to tackle this? So I sat down with the team and we were brainstorming, thinking back and forth. And in the end, we narrowed down that it would be actually quite interesting to do something with a computer game. because it's an upcoming thing. It gains more and more computer gamers in the world every year, and computer games more and more become the characteristics of social platforms, and less than someone playing a game just for the fun of it. People want to meet people and talk to them, and they really have the characteristics of platforms. So that's where the original idea actually came to life, that we wanted to do something with a computer game in order to reach young people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had some really interesting points last time we talked where, you talked about how it fosters community and discussion between players. There was a great anecdote you had where it was sort of two players, being able to talk to each other about press freedom. So then it's very interesting that you don't just get this information from establishments, but you're actually talking to your fellow peers. I'm not sure if you can remember the story.
I mean, there were many stories, and that was something unexpected in the library, that it actually became a discussion platform where young people met and talked to each other. It was not we telling them what to think, but more or less they figuring it out by themselves, by talking to each other, by letting them know what are problems in your countries. There was this one story where a young guy from Canada said, okay, why would this be interesting for me? I'm from Canada. I don't have any press freedom issues here. And then a young guy from Hong Kong told him how it feels like if your freedom is just about to be taken away from you. And then a discussion evolved around it, how press freedom is something that is not just there, but something that needs to be preserved. And even in countries where we don't have a problem right now, we need to be aware of the issue in order to protect ourselves from press censorship in the future.
I mean, how was it getting started? You just mentioned that you guys hadn't played Minecraft before. I mean, was it fun at the beginning? Nina, you said you have some younger siblings. So what was your first experience or first reaction when you started checking out Minecraft?
I mean, the first thing I did ask was my youngest brother, like, hey, how does this game work actually? Like, can you log on right now and show me what it is that you do in the game? I'd sort of heard about it before, so I understood that it was a very creative game. I was told it was a little bit like playing digital Legos, which sort of gives you a pretty good idea. But I mean, it's a great game, but I did take a little bit of time in the beginning to sort of figure out how it works. I would say that I still now, even after doing the project, could do with a little bit more practice and the actual playing of the game. It's great. I mean, you get to sort of, there's different ways to play, but you can ultimately get hold of different materials, and then you sort of place them down in blocks to build, basically whatever you want. And it's an amazing game just creatively, and it's also a lot of fun. So, yeah.
Toby, what were your initial reactions, if you can remember? Were you a gamer beforehand, or was it kind of
the initial plan was actually not to do something with Minecraft. It was just to do anything with any computer game. That was the basic idea.
Right, okay.
So what we then did is we sat down and we started to research what computer games are there, and what computer games have offer the possibility to publish some text, because that's not really something that's out there often, that you can actually write something and share it with other players, and also write something to a certain length and extent that you can fit a whole article. I still remember Nina also were down with the research, and we really Googled and were searching for computer games and what possibilities are there. And I think the initial thought came when I stumbled upon a YouTube video where someone was writing a Minecraft book, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. You can write a whole book, and because it was a book and not a newspaper or whatever, and that's when the idea of a library came to life, because it just made sense to put a book in a library.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we then went down and went deeper into Minecraft and found out, okay, it has a huge player base. It actually is one of the most played games in the world. And it's really interesting for us because we can reach a lot of people, and at the same time, it's very creative, and you can do whatever you want and build whatever you want. And it kind of made it the perfect platform, the perfect a game for this project, because it offers so much creative freedom, and at the same time, this very important centerpiece of being able to write books.
I would also just, if I may, just like very quickly add that the amazing thing about the books as well is how much information it can actually hold. So you can actually write 100 pages in the game, in the book, and that's sort of equivalent to about 6 A4 pages sort of typed out. So it's really perfect for long articles even, that we could fit them into these books in the game.
Brilliant. I mean, I actually did read that it is the most popular computer game in the world right now. Do you guys know how many players that we're talking about?
So the current statistic says it's somewhat around 140 million players worldwide.
Okay, well, that is a big, big user base. So I think what you mentioned earlier, Toby, that those of us who live in countries that don't really understand how censorship, well, we understand how it works, but we often don't feel the impacts. In your view, why is combating it important, and I guess particularly for the younger generation that's coming?
I mean, yes, as I said earlier, I mean, we are living in countries where press freedom is not a huge issue, or we can say whatever we want. We have freedom of speech, but in other countries that is not the case, and most media is blocked or controlled. And that is not something that we're aware of, or it's hard for us to understand why should it be important for us that someone in China, for example, is able to read the newspaper. It doesn't, I might not care. But on the one hand, it's very important for us to protect press freedom in our countries as well. So when we go to elect a party, we should consider, is this party friendly towards the press? And from the last president in the US, we saw that press freedom can change overnight, basically.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, press freedom in other countries really affects us as well. A very recent example is the COVID-19 pandemic that started in China, and the Chinese government really tried to keep that under the radar. They imprisoned journalists and bloggers who wanted to talk about this in the very early stages. They forbid doctors and scientists to share their research and warn about this virus. And because of this very heavy press censorship in China, where they really wanted to give the impression that they have things under control and nothing is going wrong, the virus was able to spread that fast and that brutally. Yes, we all know that this early press censorship situation in China then enabled the pandemic to spread that fast. And this actually is impacting all of us quite heavily.
Yeah, I would also add that particularly in regard to young people, I mean, we've seen, for example, when the Black Lives Matter movement happened, this huge rise in like Insta activism, and we really saw that young people do genuinely care about these topics, and they're very political and they are very socially active. And so especially young people need to have reliable information to be able to inform themselves, because they already do want to sort of spread the word and let everybody know, inform people of injustices and things like that, because it is important to them. And so that allows us and young people to resist and protect ourselves from big issues that are affecting our society. And that's very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Toby, you mentioned China there. I was just talking to one of our jury members yesterday, and he was actually saying that they've banned Minecraft in China. I'm not sure if you guys, I assume you guys know that.
We are aware of that. And we that's why we didn't put China in there as a country and as a topic. They have Minecraft in China, but it's like their own Minecraft. But it's a bit more complicated than that, because a lot of people in China actually have the old version of Minecraft that's still available. And through our data, we saw that there's a lot of people from China actually came to the library and visited us, and we talked to the players online, and a lot of them were from China. And I was wondering, and I asked them, "Hey, I mean, you're from China. We thought Minecraft doesn't exist there. It's actually one of the only, or one of the very few countries where they don't play Minecraft." And then they told me, yes, but actually everyone has the cracked version of Minecraft because nobody wants to play the Chinese version. So yes, it is true, Minecraft is blocked. Nevertheless, we've reached a lot of young people in China. Nevertheless.
Yes. Yeah. No, of course. It was just an interesting point that someone made yesterday, and I really wanted to ask you guys about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was we were confused as well, and it was a surprise when we saw that people from China are visiting us. That's why we kind of wanted to get behind it. Okay, what's happening?
Yeah, I guess they found a way to access so many of these, social media in general. So, yeah, it makes sense. They'll find a way. But I mean, how does it work with gathering and uploading the content from journalists? You've got them all around the world. And I can imagine safety is also a top priority for you guys as well, working with Reporters Without Borders.
Yes, I mean, it was very important for us to have all the information, let's say, coming through Reporters Without Borders. It was not us providing the information, but Reporters Without Borders getting in contact with these journalists and working with them together what articles would be best to publish. And then they provided these articles in the language of their origin and in English, and then we published them inside the library. So it was a collaboration between Reporters Without Borders, these journalists, and then with us to upload the content. When talking to the journalists, or in general publishing content on the library, of course, safety is first priority. So, for example, the journalists from Egypt, we cannot name their names because they're still living in Egypt, and it would be very dangerous for them, and they can actually go to prison for this.
Mm-hmm.
So when we contacted them, we also had to use very secure apps that have encryption, and you cannot just write an email to them. So that was something really new to me, and also a bit scary, to be really careful about what do you send, what questions do you ask, what do you communicate for, and how do you communicate in order to literally protect their these people's lives, and also some very personal emotional moments when I interviewed the widow of Jamal Khashoggi. That was very moving as well.
Mm-hmm.
With other journalists, it was a bit easier because, for example, the journalists from Vietnam or from Russia,
Mm-hmm.
they were in exile. The Huy van Dijk, he lives in Germany, and Julia, she lives in Paris. So with these journalists, we could be a bit more open and actually do video interviews and show them to the world. So that was really depending towards the individual situation of the journalists.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, when we're talking about how risky the situations are, we are talking about, of course, everything from fines to basically people being killed, right?
Absolutely, yeah. There is different ways of censorship in the world. For example, in Mexico, by law, it actually would be possible to say something, to publish the information. But there's a very high level of self-censorship because the politicians are actually working together with the mafia, and if you say something they don't like, you basically just get killed.
Yeah.
So it is not illegal, but I think it even is a much worse way of censorship than simply blocking something on the internet and just saying, hey, you can say whatever you want, but if you do, you get killed.
Yeah, there's consequences, right? Freedom of speech, but no freedom of consequence.
Yeah, definitely. So and also for us, I'm actually not sure if we should be traveling to Vietnam in the near future. I absolutely don't know.
Yeah, that would be a bit of a risk, I would imagine. But you guys were saying that you were using apps just out of curiosity to communicate with these journalists. I mean, was it something like Signal, or sort of what are people using these days?
Yes, the Reporters Without Borders uses Signal. If I'm correct, Signal was actually established by an American press freedom NGO. So it comes from that corner.
Yeah, was it endorsed by Snowden, or was it more involved than that? I can't remember what I read, but Edward Snowden.
I'm not really sure, but I'm not very.
I'm quite sure that's accurate. It's at least been endorsed by Edward Snowden. I'm not sure if he had anything to do with the development, but
yes.
We will find that out. But Nina, I'd really like to hear basically what the design process was, sort of how you took these stories and then integrated them into Minecraft and the rooms that you guys have created.
Of course. So, I mean, I'd say from the get-go, I mean, even just when we were presenting the concept, the idea for the Uncensored Library, I mean, every every group that we worked with, like, Reporters Without Borders, Blockworks, Media Monks, Der House, everyone was really enthusiastic about the idea and the project. And so that kind of was super, super validating and definitely gave us the motivation to come up with all sorts of creative solutions. And, that's just exactly the sort of fruitful base you want to have when you're sort of developing this kind of idea. But in terms of the actual construction of the library itself, so of course we worked very, very closely with Blockworks, but it was also like a super collaborative process. So we came forward with a lot of the concepts that we already had for sort of the general look of the library and also sort of the individual room installations and these kind of things. And Blockworks were always willing to take it on and suggest improvements. And of course, with their epic Minecraft knowledge, they really knew, the logistics, like how to actually make it happen. And of course, James Delaney, who is the managing director of Blockworks, he also had a background in architecture, which also played a major role in this, especially when we were talking about the design of the architecture of the building. And he agreed with us that the neoclassical style was the best way to go because of the sort of symbolism and also this sort of create a building that stood for education and sort of power, but in a way that's empowering as opposed to imposing power on people. And but this thing with the Blockworks guys, with their sort of knowledge of Minecraft, it definitely really elevated our ideas because they were able to share ways to sort of gamify the experience for the players. They really knew what players want and the kind of things that they like to do, and it made it a lot more appealing for the young people to actually interact with the library. So, for example, we had little touches like in the Russia room where we had this giant data kraken. There's a little boat that you can actually sort of like hop in and swim. I guess row to the little island where the books are. Or we had like a little bit of a treasure hunt for finding the current newsroom, which we sort of later integrated into the library build. And and another great example, I think, is the truth installation that we had in the Reporters Without Borders room. It kind of came from this like crazy idea that I had a few years ago. And I don't know, I actually at that time had built it with Lego. It was part of like a weird high school art project that I had done, and it wasn't a very good one, but still, I felt like there was something there. And when we started, developing this idea, I thought, oh, actually, this works perfectly for this project. So I sort of sat down one day, sort of 3-4 hours, and just struggled through Minecraft to try and figure out how to create like a prototype. I had the idea in my head, but I just, struggling more with the actual process of the building. But luckily, I was able to present this prototype that I'd made to my team and also to the guys at Blockworks, and they really saw potential in it. Everybody really liked it. So, of course, then the Blockwork guys with their expertise were able to actually build it, and it became like one of the most striking room installations, I would say, and it was a huge hit among audiences. And one of my favorite parts of the project was watching YouTubers sort of go through the library, and the moment that they would sort of arrive into this room and sort of, it's a perspective trick, so that when they stood in the right spot, that everything would be revealed and the word truth was there. And the way their jaws just dropped, like that was definitely, it was very satisfying for me personally, but it was really, really cool just to sort of have that extra edge to really sort of wow people and put them in awe.
Yeah, it's quite a funny culture, isn't it? This YouTube sort of movement or phenomenon where it's you're actually watching people game. It's such a of course I don't get it. I'm too old for that apparently, but it is really great feedback for you guys to actually see how people's reactions and how they're basically interacting with the game.
But that actually was one of the biggest gateways to the community that we had, that people went through the library, recorded them playing or their experience, and then other people saw it on YouTube and wanted to experience it as well. And especially big gaming influencers on YouTube who highlighted the library with large audiences really enabled us to reach a lot of young people and them redirecting them to the actual library. So YouTube was very important for this project.
I can imagine with designing it, there was a lot of sort of problem solving on the way. For example, when you guys realized that Arabic characters weren't compatible. So tell us how you guys figured that out.
Yeah, sure. So Yeah, like you said, a build like this doesn't come without its challenges, and there were many sort of things along the way. But yeah, especially this one was maybe one of the major things. But yeah, so the basic thing was that we wanted to upload all of the articles in English and also in their original language. And we felt in the beginning that that would be possible because Minecraft actually supports the different languages. So like with Vietnamese and with Russian and Arabic, they actually do have the characters that you can write in the books. And so, yeah, we had everything sort of prepared. But unfortunately, with the Arabic characters, what we realized is when we copied and pasted our texts into the game, that the words would become sort of misaligned, and it basically rendered the words to gibberish, you know? So we had a couple of colleagues of ours in the agency who we just asked, of course, to sort of double check and proofread everything. And they were coming back to us saying, this is totally illegible, like you can't actually read this. So of course we reached out to Blockworks and we were like, okay guys, is there anything we can do about this? Do we have to, not have Arabic text in the library? Of course that was what we wanted to avoid, but what Blockworks told us is they actually have gameplay items in the game, which are sort of record players, and they were saying these support audio files. So we thought, okay, how about we create sort of Arabic audio books in order to have people be able to listen in their native language to the text. And so, yes, some of our colleagues that we work with were able to sort of help us provide the audiobook recordings in Arabic, and then we were able to implement those into the game. And actually, it was a sort of a creative solution that really elevated the gameplay experience. Once again, it was a problem, but then we actually we not only solved it, but we made it even more interesting for players.
Definitely.
And yeah, it was also very well received, and people really liked it a lot.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's like mini podcasts in there.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, really.
But when you guys publicly launched the project, I mean, it pretty much went viral, right? And I think I heard that the site actually crashed. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't, we didn't really know if it would be a success, because it is a very political topic, and we didn't know if young gamers would be interested in engaging in such a political topic. So what really helped us is that Reporters Without Borders, of course, has very excellent contacts to the press. And the topic itself basically was within the press self-interest to talk about it. So we had a huge PR success worldwide. I think there was more than 80 news articles worldwide about this. No, actually more than 790. That's the number we finally figured out.
Yeah.
More than 790 news articles worldwide that gave us a lot of attention to the cause and also to the NGO Reporters Without Borders. But at the same time, it really picked up pace on Reddit and online platforms where people kept sharing it and reposting it, and especially when big YouTube gaming influencers then hopped on. That really was a breakthrough on the Minecraft community side. And yes, the server crashed because too many players tried to log on, and then we had to migrate to a bigger server in order to host all of these players.
Also for me, like, I was really surprised by how much it grew beyond just the game itself. Like when we started receiving messages from teachers and students from universities, that was like, for me, like, oh wow, this is really taking off. I mean, professors were telling us that they were using it as a tool to teach their students. We had a lot of young journalists reach out and say, hey, can we please interview you? We want to know more about this library, and we want to be able to write our sort of theses on the project and that kind of thing. And so the fact that it was so well received just from, not only our target group, these young people, not only adults who were reading about it in their, from their news sources, but also creative institutions. We also, a museum also wanted to feature our project, the Design Museum in London. And so, yeah, the fact that it grew so much bigger than we expected was really exciting.
Do you guys know sort of how many people are using it, or sort of the demographics? Like what age are we talking about that are sort of the main users of it these days?
Yeah, I mean, the basic Minecraft audience it starts at 9 years and it ends somewhat 30, 35. With the library, we had a bit of an older audience. So I'd say most people who logged on were around between 15 and 21. And that actually was also our core audience, to really have teenagers and people who are just about getting into the age where they're about to vote as well, to get this information and this topic really to them. And for a lot of these young people, it was for a lot of these young gamers, it was the first time that they actually engaged with the topic of press freedom, that they had never heard of it before, that it is a topic that is interesting or important.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how many users are using the Uncensored Library?
So far, we have reached,
or gamers, I should call them.
If we are counting YouTube and where people can watch walkthrough videos, and also people download the library on the website and play it offline, and also including the numbers from the online server, we can narrow it down to around 20 million people.
Wow, that's extremely impressive. Also, you mentioned that you've been in more than 700 news articles. I can imagine, is there a bit of press fatigue on your front, having to do so many interviews?
With the press, it's sometimes a bit hard to track. I mean, we cannot track how many people read the newspaper. We can only track how much reach that newspaper has.
Right.
So from that end, we had a reach that was between 2 and 3 billion. But from that 20 million, that is really just young people, young gamers.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say even just 20 million is very, very impressive. But since working on the project, how has it changed sort of your views on press freedom or even your behavior?
Yeah, I mean, I can start, but I think in general, I would definitely say that my view on the media industry as a whole has shifted. I think the main thing for me was realizing that I can actually be an active participant in the media landscape, and be more than just on the receiving end of whatever sort of comes at me. And I would say, like, as a creative, and like many others, not only people that work in advertising, but in other creative fields, that we have the ability and the sort of skills in general to make important information sort of more engaging, more shareable, more appealing, and delivering information in a way that invokes a greater sense of empathy, I think is really important and very crucial in motivating people to actively take action, towards important issues. And I really think that that's a power that can be used for good. And our Russian journalist, she has a quote, which we have in our film, which is, "The only real way of fighting censorship is sharing and spreading what is being censored." And if we have the power to increase that, to sort of increase the way that information is being shared and spread, then I think we should use that. And for me, that was really sort of important to realize, like, I have the power to do that.
And for you, Toby?
Yeah, I mean, press freedom is something that a lot of people don't have on their radar. I mean, when we're talking about the big issues in the world, the first thing that comes to mind is, for example, climate change. But what I really realized when I was working on that project is that press freedom is one of the most important things we can hold as a society, because the big issues in the world, like climate change, can only be solved by all of us together. And we wouldn't know about climate change, we wouldn't know about this issue if there wasn't a free press to tell us about it. And only if there is free press to give us independent information, we can make up our own mind, and we can decide that climate change is an important issue and that we want to fight for it. And because there has been a lot of news coverage on climate change in Germany, our political parties are under pressure now to act on it, and they actually just renewed their climate act because they were scared that people will not vote for them anymore, because people are really aware of the issue and they only will vote for parties who actually make this their main priority. And I think in order to achieve this, it is very important that there is a free press, not only in one country, but around the world, where people can get informed about these issues and then make up their mind about them and act on them.
I didn't put this question in the questions I sent to you. Again, I will.
No worries.
Like any other, I guess, news outlet, how do you sort of guarantee legitimacy? Or, who polices the police when we're talking about the Uncensored Library? But I mean, you guys do sort of lean on that credibility with Reporters Without Borders, right?
I mean, Yeah, we only work with journalists and news outlets who have a certain credibility, and of course, Reporters Without Borders is in close contact with these journalists and know their way of working. So, Reporters Without Borders actually have a bit of a problem when they say, okay, they tell everyone what the truth is and what the truth is not. They actually don't fight for the truth itself, but they fight for independent journalism. So the most important thing is that these journalists are independent, so that they're not being paid by some corporations with some second interest, that they're not monitored by the government, that they're working independent by journalistic standards, and that is what Reporters Without Borders is ensuring. Through that, Reporters Without Borders kind of tells us, okay, this and that journalist is credible, and we want to use their articles. It's not us who decides what reporters are able to publish their content. It's Reporters Without Borders actually being in close contact with these journalists and checking on their way of working.
Okay, but that's brilliant. Thank you for that clarification. It was a question just brought up last night, and a valid question. So it's really nice to get your explanation on that. I guess last question for the session is, what's the next milestone for you guys? I mean, according to sort of reports that you guys are looking into expanding the Uncensored, I guess, collection, as you would call it. But what can you share with us at this stage?
Yes, I mean, first of all, of course, the Uncensored Library will stay online. It's an ongoing project, and it was built to stay. We keep updating it, and just recently added 2 new countries. So that itself is an ongoing project that we want to keep going. But at the same time, yes, we want to keep tapping into that issue of press censorship, and want to find new ideas on how to circumvent censorship in the world. We can absolutely imagine that there will be an Uncensored 3. We are currently working on finding ideas and brainstorming around it. We have a couple ideas on other censorship issues that we want to produce. So, because there is so many different ways of censorship and so many different countries that have censorship on different levels, I think there's also a lot of creative ideas in there in order to circumvent or fight censorship with creativity. And I think that's a very interesting topic to tap in. And I don't feel like it has reached its end yet.
Nina, what about for you? Have you got any ambitions for the project that you can that you're allowed to share, or maybe even sort of where you'd like to see it head?
I mean, in terms of where I'd like to see it head, I mean, like Toby says, we really want to definitely keep it alive. And it's just really important, even if not so many people are visiting it because it's not as viral as it was before. I think it's also important, even symbolically, that it remains and that it's always open. And I mean, we've had like little conversations with Blockworks in the past year, after we released the project. They kept coming back to us as well with like little suggestions of ways that they'd like to see the library improve. When we built these extra rooms, and now with these extra sort of garden pavilions that we've built for Belarus and sorry, it was Brazil, right, Toby? I've just mentally forgotten which country it was.
Brazil and Belarus, yes.
Right. So when we built these garden pavilions for Belarus and for Brazil, that was also something that was really important, that we keep allowing the library to grow. And so, I hope that it still does. And I guess for me personally, a milestone would be, I think it's about time that I actually learn how to play Minecraft, after all this, and like really understanding all the logistics of what it means to sort of bring a project like this together. I'd love to tell my brother, like, okay, let's actually play Minecraft right now. And I think that would be really good for me personally.
Great. Well, as I mentioned at the Index Project, we really, really just love the Uncensored Library. So we're looking forward to seeing you guys grow, and can't wait to see what's coming next.
Thank you. And for everybody who would like to have more information or see the films, maybe you can go on uncensoredlibrary.com, and there's a lot of information. You can download the library if you want to play it yourself. You can find the login data in Minecraft where you can reach the library, but also find more information about Reporters Without Borders, or even donate if you want to.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. But thank you so much, guys, for joining us. And look forward to keeping in touch and seeing how things go.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you for listening to Can Design Save Us by the Index Project. I'm your host, Leslie Price, and this episode was produced by Cecil Cole Norgard with music by Christina Lilleskow. Join us for the next episode where we dive into the world of synthetic biology and how it's saving lives.